Live from our studio here in Lagos, Nigeria, this is TVC News at 10. The news at 10 tonight starts off in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, where the Africa Development Bank and the World Bank have committed a combined $40 billion to provide electricity access to more than 300 million people across Africa by the year 2030. President Bola Tinubu is one of the African leaders that witnessed the signing of the Compact for Accelerated Access to Electricity in Africa. TVC News State House correspondent Femi Akonde reports from Tanzania.
Despite ongoing efforts, more than half of Africa's population remains without electricity. But these may soon change if African leaders follow through with the compact they have signed to deliver electricity to the deprived population. The Africa Development Bank is leading this charge and carrying along other development partners to finance this idea into action to accelerate the energy access.
We were joined by the African Union, Commission, several global partners, including the Rockefeller Foundation, the Sustainable Energy for All of the United Nations, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet.
This progress means that more boys and girls in remote areas can now study in well-lit classrooms. Health workers can deliver life-saving services to off-grid populations.
For Tanzania, the host country, President Samia Hassan announced a $13 billion funding requirement to implement key energy reforms that will boost the electricity supply chain, promote clean cooking solutions, and expand access to power in rural communities.
In order to overcome hurdles impeding energy access, we need to take bold actions by increasing investment and financing for infrastructure development.
President Bola Tinubu's participation also projected Nigeria's electrification strategy and implementation plan.
The Distributed Access to Renewable Energy Scale-Up project is the landmark or the model that the Africa Energy Summit are using, which Nigeria, even before the summit, had already signed, and we have started implementation of that project.
The lack of renewable energy solutions affects more than 1 billion people on the continent, disproportionately impacting women and children. Initiatives like the Mission 300 and Desert to Power, which also targets providing 10 gigawatts of solar to 250 million people by 2030, will significantly close the electricity access gap.
At the Mission 300 Africa Energy Summit, memorandums of understanding have been signed, commitments made, and financing options provided. What remains is execution and strategic action, as hope rises for more than 300 million waiting to get access to electricity that will power growth. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Now, former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Sam Amadi, joins me on the news at 10. Good to have you join us at this time. More than 300 million people across Africa to be provided electricity access by 2030. How realistic is this project?
Well, thank you for having me. I think, again, this is a projection. We've had several targets set by either the UN or different development agencies. So it's good that the AfDB is doing a lot in partners to fund. But again, it's realistic, but it all depends on how these regional initiatives tie into country-level policies that probably, again, the effectiveness of each state in terms of policy support, in terms of dealing with some of the constraints, because this electricity, it involves a lot of structural issues. For example, if they're going to be renewable energy-based, the policies, the procurement policies, and all that. So it's always a target, but everything depends ultimately on how domestic policy shapes up to align with these projections.
Now, Africa has about 54 countries. The next question would be, what would be the modality of selecting beneficiaries for fairness?
Well, again, it depends on how the policy is designed. Again, you might look at the more variable, look at electrification, rate of electrification. Some countries in Africa have the lowest electricity per wattage, per capita wattage. Nigeria, because of our population, and our small energy supply, we're one of the least in terms of wattage. So it might go to those countries first that have energy constraints high, those countries that are poorer, who may not have access capacity to finance rollout of electrification. And then again, they might consider also policy, quick wins. So I think that there are different considerations, but Nigeria has benefited in the past from these policies, the World Bank, the Energy for All, the C for All, and so on and so forth. So I think that anyway, Nigeria will be one of the beneficiaries. But again, it all depends on how the policy is designed, whether you're looking at capability, deprivation, or you're looking at the mix of both those who have the capacity to roll out and those who barely need energy support.
But let's now narrow it to Nigeria. Is money or more funds solution to power issue in the country?
I think there is need for money. Again, both. First, if you look at estimation at how much we need to perhaps increase our local connectivity access, and today with the new Electricity Act that allows states to now take initiative in expanding access to energy, then some of the states might need some support to be able to roll out. That's number one. So financing is important. But again, many will argue that even from our national grid, we have constraints relating to structural issues around gas to power, around our distribution networks, whether they are incentivized enough, change management strategies. So we need a mixture of more financing, and that's probably why the parent is there and the officials are there. But more than that, we need a better audit of our institutional constraints and being able to ensure that our capacity for project execution is also matched with the resources we are getting. We need financing, we need international financing, we need local financing, we need private sector financing, but we also need very effective change management dealing with the structural crisis of our network. I know most of these interventions will be off-grid, modular power, mini-grids and all that. But again, they need to have local policies that are strong enough to maximize the impact of these interventions.
Former Chairman, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Sam Amadi, thank you very much for your time on TVC News at 10.
Thank you.